So this is our typical soil right here that doesn't have a skin on it. It's just bare soil. And so it's not rock hard, but it's pretty hard. Right there, I'm not getting the shovel any further. And this is a sharpshooter. This is narrow. That's pretty hard stuff right there. And that's typical of what we have around our house. Okay, so we moved here 13 years ago. These trees weren't as tall as they are now. Obviously, they're growing, they're doing well. This spruce basically has grown, I don't know how much, but the new growth on it every year is anywhere between 3 and 6 inches. And if you places it'll be even longer than that on a few branches. But 3 to 6 inches, you know, somewhere around 4 or 5 inches is probably what it's averaging a year. So it's pretty good. And then this ponderosa is doing the same thing. Now, we put wood chips around the base of these 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, just to kind of help to hold the moisture in and to hopefully start building up some good soil right at the surface level. Now, of course, we don't get much rain here. It's 8 inches of rain is what the statistics say. But the wood chips around here that we spread, you know, we've spread a couple layers of them a couple different times, you know, 5 or 6 inches thick. They do compact down, they do go flat. So this is, you know, pretty flattened out as far as the wood chips go. You can see a lot of it's where it's flagged and the pine needles have fallen. The pine needles are down there. We also throw some wood chips from the chicken house in here. That's some chicken manure, and throw it around here once in a while. Of course, we throw all our scraps of food around the trees. You can see eggshells. There's other things, like there's an onion there that went bad and we just threw out here. And sometimes the animals come around here, like the rabbits and stuff, and they'll eat whatever leftovers there are, and they'll poop right here. So that's fertilizer too. That's good. And whatever they don't eat, that kind of breaks down too, and hopefully helps rejuvenate the soil. We've been doing this for lots of years. So, but this pine tree looks pretty good, and it's pretty strong and pretty healthy. What I wanted to show you though was, let me start right here. On the other side of the tree, that right there is where we have our drip irrigation coming off. My little drip thing's broken off and it's just spraying a little stream right there. But basically what's happening is this is soaking all this area right here and keeping it wet underneath these wood chips. So this is going to be very wet right up to the surface from these wood chips just because of this little spray that's coming out right here. So, but over here, just for example, this is not an area that gets that water. So this is going to be pretty dry underneath these wood chips. Okay, so we're going to uncover these wood chips. These have been here 3 or 4 years. And so, you know, they're not completely broken down. Look at all these pine cones. Is this a sign of a healthy tree or what? So, a lot of acid that comes from these pine needles too. Let's just pull this back and look here. Okay, so this right here is the old surface of the ground, just like you see all the dry hard pack all around here. This is the surface right here, and you can see it's still pretty dang hard, right? That is not great for easy root growth. So, and this is silt here that we have on the surface here. Our clay layer is about 2 or 3 feet down. This is just hard packed silt that we have right here. And so what I wished I had done, obviously this pine tree's been here for a long time, but when I was planting new trees, you know, whether you dig a big hole or a small hole or whatever, to go ahead and just take the time to rototill all the way around the tree, you know, 10 or 15, or use a disc, you know, a disc harrow from the tractor or whatever's easy, whatever equipment you have at your disposal. This is not any fun to dig by hand, let me tell you that. So even a rototiller just beats you up because it's so hard. But rototill around it, even if it's just a few inches down, 6 inches down, and then plant the tree in the middle and then cover it all with wood chips. That's going to break up the soil here, and it's going to start out broken up. The idea with wood chips that Back to Eden Gardening teaches is when you cover the ground with wood chips, it starts to interact with the soil and loosen the soil and break it down. Okay, and I agree with that. With the really poor rain that we have here though, and unless it gets water right here, unless this gets watered from the natural you know, unless it gets watered artificially, it's not getting enough moisture down here from the natural moisture that we get. It's just not enough to support that breakdown of wood chips into the soil to start making good soil quickly. This may take lots and lots of years for this to happen. 3 or 4 years, you can see what's happened here. It hasn't done much, but that's why I wished I had just kind of broken up and tilled all around before I put the wood chips down. That will accelerate that process. And then those new roots that want to grow, those little rootlets that come up to the surface that are after water, and the nutrients that are on the soil or just under the soil can get right up here into this area right here. And that's got to be super, super good for them. And then of course on the top of the wood chips, this can denitrogenate your soil some, but we just add a layer of chicken fertilizer, chicken manure. When we clean up the chicken house, we spread it around the trees. Sometimes we use cow manure just to kind of replace that stuff. So when it does rain and the moisture does fall, it'll help percolate down through the wood chips into the soil and get to those rootlets, okay? So you can't just throw wood chips down and walk away and expect it to be magic, especially in this dry, hard soil that we have. This is just, you know, this is a little bit softer than what's out there on the bare ground where there's no skin on the soil, but it's not much better, and you can tell after 3 or 4 years it's just still pretty hard. Okay, so now we're going to pull this back right here. The water spray is right there. This should all be nice and wet just from the water supply, or at least moist. And you can already see the sticks are kind of broken down in the dirt there. The dirt's much darker there, of course, because it's wet. And I'm not going to dig up a lot there, but you can see that that's wet right there, and then my shovel's wet right there, just a couple inches down. So that's good. So this ponderosa, you know, I don't know how tall it is. I'm under 6 feet, so it's about 18 feet tall is my guess. 16, 18 feet tall now. It's pretty healthy. It makes pine cones every year. Every year it grows. This one grows 2 or 3 inches a year. There's some new growth coming off right there. And it's just early, it's mid-May, so this is still gonna grow, you know, quickly in the next month or two, 2 or 3 inches. This one doesn't grow quite as fast as the spruces do, but it still seems to be pretty healthy and doing well. And with this perimeter of wood chips around and keeping it moist, you know, we only water it maybe once a month. We'll water it for 2 or 3 days, make this side nice and wet, and then shut it off. It seems to be enough moisture for it. Narrowleaf cottonwood just leafed out within the last 7 days. It started leafing out, and now it's not quite as thick as it's going to be, but it's pretty much leafed out. And it's had wood chips around it for, again, 3 or 4 years, just like those pine trees. Oh, you can see how tight this is here. This hasn't been messed with since I put these wood chips down at all. So that's dirt right there. And I can't, like, well, I can push it in just by hand. And that's not wet, but it's definitely much softer than, I don't want to dig a bunch, I'm hitting roots there. So it's definitely much softer. Oh, it's cool. Okay, so what we did last fall, so it's been 8 months or so, late summer, early fall, I dug this up with a backhoe, about maybe 5 or 6 feet out actually. So 18 inches down, I used the whole bucket to dig down and just lifted it up and broke it all up. And I did all this all along the back side of the fence here. And then we put wood chips over it about a month later. And of course I flattened it out, smoothed it out, but I wanted it all broken up. And then we put wood chips over it, hopefully to speed up the process of keeping the dirt soft. This dirt is so super hard here that when you go to put wood chips on top, and we get so little rain, we get 8 inches of rain here a year, it just takes forever for the wood chips to grow, basically you know, make that soil soft. What the wood chips do pretty quickly though is they do bring up the moisture that's under the ground down there, you know, 8-10 inches down. When you put a thick layer of wood chips, 5, 6, 8 inches, that moisture level will come up. And so it's not quite as shallow, but the surface dirt is still super hard. So what we did was we broke it down here with a backhoe, covered it in wood chips last fall. And so we're gonna dig right here. Dawn's already planted a couple plants. Okay, that's the bottom of the wood chips right there.
Yeah, look how nice and moist that is. So it doesn't dry out.
Okay, so can you push your shovel into it? Okay, so you didn't even use your foot there.
Nope.
Okay.
And it's still that clay, silty.
Well, it's still the silt, yeah.
Soil, but
it's very soft. It's not root preventative. Root preventive? Shouldn't prevent your roots from growing. Oh wow, how deep is that?
That's at least 1.5 to 2 feet.
That's 18 inches or so.
It's just super heavy.
And we haven't watered this, yeah, because this is very, very moist down there. So we haven't watered this. Did you water it once?
It's been watered once through the
fence as the water overflowed from the fence. So this has been watered once. And how long ago was that?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, and it's still. Well, that shovel's way down there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole goal here was to not to.
And because
look at the one.
There we go.
Okay. And it's May. It's middle of May in Colorado right now. So, and there's already worms. Okay, that's cool. So.
That should be deep enough.
This answers our question here. So tilling the soil deep and then covering it with wood chips not only keeps the moisture all the way up to the surface, the moisture's all the way up to here. I mean, look at this. This is wet here. So that 3 weeks ago was the last time we watered this, and the only time we watered it this spring. This is the only time we watered it this spring, and the moisture stayed right under the wood chips, and all the way up to the surface. Okay, awesome.